There's been a lot of debate recently on the Crimson Vines and Egg on the Dream SMP, mainly about what the heck it is, and what role it will play in the future. Today I'm going to give you a quick backstory on the egg, a biological analysis about the science of the egg, and a philosophical analysis of what the egg represents in the story of the Dream SMP. And let me tell ya, I think we figured out what it is. But heyo, chances are you probably aren't subscribed. So if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. And hey, thank you for watching. Alright, if you're a Josh the Nerd viewer, you'll already know the drill. In order to solve a problem, we must first learn about the problem. But, you know, instead of me giving you a boring history lesson, why don't we just have Captain Puffy do it?
Can you please explain to me the lore and the history of this egg? Please, quickly,
Okay,
Puffy.
so basically the egg showed up randomly. Me and Bad tried to contain it under obsidian, and we did for a while, and then it just literally spread everywhere.
So-
Bad and Antfrost and even Puns. And Puns hates everything, so that's really saying something.
So Puns is an egger.
Dream went in prison, and then Bad saw his opportunity to global server takeover.
What, so he's trying to take over the Dream SMP?
He wants the bloodvines to spread literally everywhere, so he can take over
Why
and
would
be
he
the only
name them
source of
Blood
power.
Vines?
I mean, I call it boring, but it's actually interesting once you get into it. But this is Josh the Nerd, not the History Channel. So let's talk science. When I first saw the egg, I was immediately thinking that it wasn't really an egg. At least, not in a scientific sense. You probably already know this, but an egg is simply referred to as a gamete. You know how it takes two to tango? Well, the egg is the female side of the bargain. Is it possible that this is literally an egg laid by a female creature with something inside? 100%. And some people even theorize about what's inside. However, the egg also exhibits other characteristics similar to other organisms. For instance, its ability to grow and manipulate its surroundings. Let me turn your attention to our good friend, the fungus. Now, you might think I'm crazy, but the similarities are uncanny. First of all, the egg has a very particular way of growing. Fungi spread using spores. These spores are released and will continue to grow into things like mushrooms if the proper conditions are met, similar to how the egg spreads. The egg also grows out into vine-like structures, hence the name, the Crimson Vines. For fungi, this is called mycelium. The egg is also able to change the color of objects that it touches, and you guessed it, fungi can also do this. And even though the egg doesn't look like your typical mushroom, fungi come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, and some even take up a span of 3.4 miles, so size isn't a concern either. Okay, how about the whole mind control thing? The egg is able to manipulate the minds of people that come across it. Well, fungi can also do this too, using psychoactive chemicals. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Just like psilocybin mushrooms, aka magic mushrooms. So I think a strong argument can be made then that the egg is some form of really advanced fungus. And I say really advanced because even though it exhibits properties of fungi, these properties are quite extreme. Because it seems the egg is able to communicate with its own language and even construct political ideologies, meaning that it is very advanced biologically. It seems to have a sophisticated form of intelligence. But we're not done yet, because I also think that the egg is Dream. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but hear me out. This is where we get a little more abstract and philosophical, because obviously, the egg isn't Dream in the literal sense. One can figure that out just by looking at the guy. But no, I'm saying that the egg is Dream in a philosophical and symbolic sense. Here's what I mean. Think about this for a second. What is the egg's goal?
Dream went in prison, and then Bad saw his opportunity to global server takeover.
What, so he's trying to take over the Dream SMP?
He wants the bloodvines to spread literally everywhere, so he can take over
Why
and
would
be
he
the only
name them
source of
Blood
power.
Vines?
So the egg's goal is complete control of the server, eh? Sound like someone familiar?
We have no mercy for you.
Not only that, But the way they gain that control is also similar. They both pretend to be your friend and wish the best for you, when in reality, they're the exact opposite. Dream's manipulative nature and his psychology is something I talk more about in this video. Also, isn't it interesting how the egg isn't able to control Tommy? I'll talk more about why in a second, but doesn't that sound like Dream? Dream also has a hard time controlling Tommy. It's been that way since the very beginning. Now this is where it gets very interesting. In my Technoblade video, I talked a bit about the idea of chaos versus order. Chaos versus order is a very old idea, but there are good reasons for that. Mainly because it's actually a way our universe is structured. But now I'm getting ahead of myself. You know how at the end of Star Wars Episode 6, everybody is celebrating about the end of the Empire, and then the next movie they're like, psych, new villain? Well, it's mainly because of how the Force works. There's the dark side and the light side. And the goal is balance, right? When one side gets too strong, the other side rises up. Again, to achieve balance. That pretty much sums up my thoughts with the idea of chaos versus order. In talking with the Discord server, we came up with the term Statera Theory, defined like this. Statera Theory, the idea that chaos and order are always in flux. A balance must always be striven for, but not actually fully obtained. And this isn't just a bunch of nonsense. Isn't it interesting how when Dream becomes powerless, the egg begins to rise up? At least from a storytelling standpoint, I'd propose it's because of Statera Theory, i.e., because the best thing for content is the continuum of chaos versus order. It's the most fun to watch, because there has to be some action, some conflict. Watching TommyInnit and the others fight against the villain is going to be way more enjoyable to watch than if everyone were friends at all times. Now back to that idea of TommyInnit and why he's hard to control. Now, one can speculate all day and come up with scientific theories to explain it, but here's what I propose. The egg is having a hard time taking control of TommyInnit because of the same exact reason why Dream has a hard time taking control of TommyInnit. Because Tommy is both chaotic and not very agreeable. He has a pretty large ego as well. It's been that way forever. And Tommy can exaggerate this a bit for the sake of content, which, don't get me wrong, is extremely hilarious, but I'd say it's one of the reasons why he's hard to control. Tommy thinks for himself, and he doesn't like to follow the rules. He spreads chaos and doesn't bend to tyranny. That is why he's hard to control. And that's why I think the egg is, at the very least, a stand-in for Dream. And if you need more evidence, there's also speculation from people like Fundy that the egg is somehow connected to the Dreamins.
What I think might be the case, by making BBH worked so hard for a team, for a group he was never part of. I think eventually he found out about not being part of the Dreamin' Hunters after doing so much work digging this all out. And this is a stretch, all right? He may or may not have gone completely crazy, and a Dreamin' may or may not have made use of that, because there was one point before all of this mucus was here that I saw this egg without anything around it. This egg was just here.
So that might be a potential connection to Dream. The egg's main weaknesses seem to be things related to Church Prime. So there's also a more religious side to the egg. Further evidence to support the idea of the egg being the villain. Again, some sort of a stand-in for Dream. Okay, so here's one more thing to think about before you go. Again, the egg's ability to change the colors of objects can be explained scientifically, just like fungi in real life. But what if there was also symbolic meaning for this? The egg sucks the color red from objects, leaves white objects alone, and turns blue objects into red. Now, red as a color symbolizes things like emotion and passion, war and anger, whereas blue symbolizes things like stability and wisdom, calmness and serenity. Could this symbolize the egg's intentions, which are to destabilize the Dream SMP and bring everything under its control? I think a good case can be made, but we'll just have to see what happens. But hey, that's just a theory. Yeah, I can't keep copying game theory, man. I need my own catchphrase. But hey, that's just an analysis. A nerd analysis. Needs work.